The crisp London morning air filled with excitement as Logan Paul stepped out of his luxury hotel in Westminster. His camera crew followed closely behind, equipment in hand, ready to capture whatever wild content their boss had planned for the day. Logan had been building anticipation on his social media channels for weeks about his upcoming London trip, promising his millions of followers something they had never seen before. Walking through the busy streets of central London, Logan's eyes sparkled with mischief as he spotted the iconic red phone booths and double-decker buses. Everything seemed like the perfect backdrop for content creation. His team knew that look in his eyes meant trouble was coming. They had seen it countless times before when Logan was about to pull off one of his legendary pranks that would either go viral for all the right reasons or land them in serious hot water. The YouTube sensation had built his entire career on pushing boundaries and creating content that shocked audiences worldwide. From his controversial forest video in Japan to his wrestling career, Logan Paul never shied away from stirring up drama and headlines. London represented a new playground for his antics, and he was determined to make the most of it. As they walked past Westminster Abbey and toward Buckingham Palace, Logan began explaining his master plan to his camera crew. He had been researching British culture and traditions, looking for the perfect target that would guarantee millions of views and endless social media buzz. The idea that had been brewing in his mind for weeks was about to become reality. His manager tried to voice concerns about potential legal issues and diplomatic incidents, but Logan brushed off the warnings with his characteristic confidence. He had talked his way out of countless controversies before, and his massive following always seemed to forgive his most outrageous behavior. Besides, he reasoned, it would just be harmless fun that would bring smiles to people's faces and showcase British culture to his American audience. The group made their way through the crowded tourist areas, with Logan stopping occasionally to take selfies with fans who recognized him. His energy was infectious, and even his worried team members found themselves caught up in the excitement of whatever was about to unfold. Little did they know that this particular adventure would spark international headlines and diplomatic discussions. Logan pulled out his phone and started a live stream, teasing his audience about the epic content coming their way. Comments flooded in from fans around the world, speculating about what their favorite creator had planned. The anticipation was building not just for Logan and his team, but for the millions of viewers who had come to expect the unexpected from the controversial YouTuber. As Buckingham Palace came into view, Logan's grin grew wider. He could already imagine the reaction videos, news coverage, and social media explosion that would follow. This was going to be bigger than anything he had done before, and the British Royal Guards were about to become unwilling participants. In his latest viral sensation, the morning sun cast long shadows across the palace grounds as tourists gathered for the changing of the guard ceremony. Logan studied the scene like a general planning a military operation, noting the positions of security cameras, the patrol routes of the guards, and the best angles for his cameras to capture every moment of what was about to become internet. Gold! His heart raced with adrenaline as he finalized the details of his plan. In just a few hours, Logan Paul would attempt something that no other content creator had ever dared to try with the British Royal Guard, and the entire world would be watching the consequences unfold in real time. Logan Paul spent the next few hours studying the Royal Guards from a distance, observing their movements and routines with the dedication of a documentary filmmaker. He noticed how they stood perfectly still for extended periods, their famous red uniforms and tall black hats making them look like living statues. The guards' stoic expressions and unwavering discipline fascinated him, but more importantly, they presented the perfect challenge for his content creation goals. Sitting in a nearby cafe with his team, Logan sketched out his strategy on napkins, while sipping tea and attempting a British accent for his camera. The plan was deceptively simple, yet potentially explosive in its consequences. He would approach one of the guards during their duty and attempt to make them break character through a series of increasingly ridiculous interactions, all while his hidden cameras captured every moment from multiple angles. his social media. Manager raised concerns about the potential backlash from British audiences, but Logan waved off the warnings with typical bravado. He had built his career on controversy and believed that any publicity was good publicity. The more people talked about him, whether positively or negatively, the more his brand grew and his bank account swelled. The team spent time researching British laws regarding filming in public spaces and interactions with government officials. While the Royal Guards were technically soldiers performing official duties, the public areas around the palace allowed for filming and tourist interactions. Logan convinced himself that his planned prank fell within legal boundaries, though he conveniently ignored the potential for harassment charges. As afternoon approached, Logan began preparing his equipment and briefing his camera operators on their positions. He wanted multiple angles to capture not just his interaction with the guard, but also the reactions of tourists and other guards in the vicinity. This wasn't just going to be a simple prank video. It was going to be a production that would dominate social media feeds and news cycles for weeks. Logan's excitement was palpable as he applied his makeup and adjusted his clothing for maximum visual impact on camera. He had chosen a bright, attention-grabbing outfit that would stand out against the traditional red and black of the Royal Guard uniforms. Every detail was calculated to create the most shareable and memorable content possible. The YouTuber practiced his approach in front of mirrors, rehearsing different lines and scenarios that might unfold during his interaction with the guard. He prepared jokes, physical comedy bits, and even some genuine attempts at respectful conversation, though his definition of respectful often differed significantly from social norms. Meanwhile, his team set up their equipment at strategic locations, around the palace grounds, disguising their professional cameras as tourist gear to avoid drawing attention from security personnel. They established communication through earpieces and tested their live streaming capabilities to ensure millions of viewers could watch the chaos unfold in real time. Logan's confidence grew as everything fell into place according to his master plan. He had successfully pulled off countless pranks and controversies throughout his career, from boxing matches with other YouTubers to business ventures that generated massive media attention. In his mind, this was just another stepping stone in his path to global domination of the entertainment industry. As tourists began gathering for the afternoon guard ceremony, Logan felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came before his biggest stunts. His heart pounded with anticipation as he realized that within minutes he would either create his most viral content ever or potentially face international diplomatic consequences. The stage was set, the cameras were rolling, and millions of fans were waiting to see what their controversial hero would do next. Logan Paul was about to test the limits of British patience and protocol in ways that would shock even his most dedicated followers and create ripple effects far beyond the entertainment world. Logan Paul approached the Royal Guard with the swagger of someone who had never met a boundary he wouldn't cross. The guard, a young soldier named James Mitchell, stood at perfect attention in his iconic red tunic and towering bearskin hat. His rifle was positioned precisely, his posture immaculate, and his gaze fixed straight ahead as he had been trained to do for countless hours during his military service. The initial approach seemed innocent enough to nearby tourists, who assumed Logan was just another American visitor taking photos with the famous guards. But Logan's cameras were capturing every angle as he began his elaborate performance, starting with exaggerated poses and silly faces just inches from the guard's stoic expression. Logan started speaking to the guard in an increasingly loud voice, making jokes about British culture and asking ridiculous questions about the Queen's daily routine. He pretended to be confused about British customs, asking if the guard needed help carrying his heavy hat or if he was allowed to blink during duty hours. The surrounding tourists began to take notice, with some filming the interaction on their own phones. As minutes passed, Logan escalated his behavior, attempting to engage the guard in conversation about American pop culture, his YouTube channel, and even offering to teach him boxing moves. The guard maintained his professional composure despite the increasingly disruptive behavior, exactly as his training had prepared him to do when dealing with difficult tourists. Logan then pulled out props from his backpack, including a foam, finger, a rubber chicken, and an oversized pair of sunglasses. He began a one-man comedy show around the motionless guard, using him as an unwilling prop in his performance. The crowd of tourists grew larger, with some laughing at the spectacle, while others appeared uncomfortable with the disrespectful display. The prank reached its peak when Logan attempted to place one of his branded hats on top of the guard's bearskin hat while singing his entrance music from his boxing matches. This crossed a clear line from harmless tourist behavior into direct interference with a soldier performing official duties. The guard's jaw tightened slightly, the only visible sign of his growing irritation. Security personnel began moving closer to the scene, recognizing that the situation was escalating beyond typical tourist enthusiasm. Logan's team signaled to him through their earpieces, warning him that official intervention appeared imminent, but the adrenaline of creating viral content clouded his judgment. In a final attempt to get a reaction, Logan began doing jumping jacks and push-ups directly in front of the guard while shouting motivational phrases and encouraging the crowd to join his impromptu workout session. The guard's professionalism was being tested to its absolute limits, as Logan's behavior became increasingly theatrical and disruptive. The entire interaction lasted approximately 15 minutes, though it felt like hours to everyone involved. Logan's cameras captured every moment from multiple angles, ensuring that his editors would have plenty of material to create a video that would generate millions of views and countless reaction videos from other content creators. As Logan finally stepped back to admire his handiwork, confident that he had created internet gold, he failed to notice the stern expressions on the faces of the approaching security officials and police officers. The guard, James Mitchell, remained perfectly still throughout the entire ordeal, his training and professionalism never wavering despite the unprecedented challenge to his composure. The crowd of tourists continued filming and photographing the aftermath, unaware that they were documenting what would become one of the most controversial content creation incidents in recent memory. Social media was about to explode with opinions, memes, and heated debates about respect, boundaries, and the responsibility of influencers with massive platforms. Within moments of Logan Paul's elaborate performance, uniformed police officers and palace security personnel surrounded the scene with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. The lead security officer, Inspector Sarah Williams, approached Logan with a stern expression that immediately wiped the confident grin from his face. The reality of his situation began to sink in as he realized this wasn't going to end with just a warning and a request to move along. Inspector Williams firmly explained that Logan's behavior constituted harassment of military personnel and disruption of official duties, charges that carried serious legal consequences in the United Kingdom. Logan's trademark bravado began to crumble as he found himself face-to-face with actual authority figures who were unimpressed by his celebrity status and millions of followers. The interrogation that followed was captured partially on his still-rolling cameras, though security personnel quickly ordered the filming to stop. Logan attempted to charm his way out of trouble with jokes and references to his fame, but the British officials remained unmoved by his celebrity persona. They had dealt with disruptive tourists before, but rarely with such a calculated and public display of disrespect. Logan's team watched nervously from a distance as their employer was questioned about his intentions, his understanding of British law, and his awareness of the seriousness of interfering with active military personnel. The YouTuber's usual quick wit seemed to abandon him as he struggled to explain his actions without admitting to deliberately planning the disruptive behavior. Meanwhile, the Royal Guard who had endured Logan's prank, James Mitchell, was quietly relieved by another soldier and escorted away for debriefing. Military officials needed to document the incident thoroughly and ensure that James received appropriate support after being subjected to such unprecedented harassment during his duty. Social media began buzzing with early footage from tourist phones, even though Logan's official video hadn't been posted yet. Short clips of the interaction spread rapidly across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, with users expressing everything from amusement to outrage at the American YouTuber's behavior toward a British soldier. Logan found himself issued with an official warning and a potential court summons, depending on whether authorities decided to pursue formal charges. The incident was being documented as part of an official police report, meaning that his actions would have permanent legal consequences regardless of how he chose to portray them in his content. His manager began making frantic phone calls to lawyers and public relations specialists, realizing that this incident could have far more serious repercussions than Logan's previous controversies. The international nature of the incident, combined with the involvement of British military personnel, elevated it beyond typical influencer drama into potential diplomatic territory. The weight of the situation became apparent when palace officials indicated that Logan was now permanently banned from the grounds of all royal residences. This wasn't just a temporary inconvenience. It was an official sanction that would follow him for life and potentially impact any future business dealings in the United Kingdom. As Logan and his team were escorted away from the palace grounds, clusters of tourists continued filming and discussing what they had witnessed. Many expressed disappointment in the American visitor's behavior, feeling that he had disrespected not just the individual guard, but British military traditions and culture as a whole. Logan's confidence was visibly shaken as he realized that his usual ability to laugh off controversies and move on to the next project might not work this time. The legal documentation, official warnings, and potential court appearances represented real consequences that couldn't be dismissed with charm and social media spin. The incident had lasted less than an hour from start to finish, but the repercussions were already beginning to spiral beyond anything Logan had anticipated. His team knew that the next few hours would be crucial in determining whether this would become just another controversial footnote in his career or a defining moment that permanently damaged his reputation and business empire. Before Logan Paul could even return to his hotel, the internet had already exploded with footage of his prank. Tourist videos flooded social media platforms, showing different angles of his interaction with the Royal Guard. Twitter hashtags like Logan Paul London and Royal Guard Respect began trending worldwide within hours, as millions of users shared their opinions on the controversial incident. British social media users were particularly vocal in their condemnation of Logan's behavior, viewing it as a disrespectful attack on their military traditions and national pride. Comments poured in from current and former military personnel, expressing outrage at the harassment of a soldier performing his duties. The incident struck a nerve with many Britons who saw it as typical American disregard for foreign customs and institutions. Major news outlets picked up the story with lightning speed, running headlines that ranged from mildly critical to absolutely scathing. The BBC covered it as a cultural incident, while tabloids like The Sun went for more sensational angles, calling Logan's behavior an assault on British dignity. International news networks began reporting on the incident as an example of influencer culture gone too far. Logan's own fan base was split dramatically in their reactions. While some defended their idol as simply creating entertaining content, others expressed embarrassment and disappointment at his behavior. Comment sections under early social media posts became battlegrounds between defenders and critics, generating even more engagement and keeping the story trending across multiple platforms. Celebrity reactions began flooding in as other content. Creators, actors, and public figures weighed in on the controversy. Some fellow YouTubers distanced themselves from Logan's actions, while others defended the right to create provocative content. British celebrities were particularly harsh in their criticism, with several calling for Logan to be permanently banned from entering the United Kingdom. The Royal Guard, who had endured the prank, James Mitchell, became an unexpected internet hero as his professionalism and restraint were praised across social media. Memes celebrating his stoic composure spread rapidly, with users contrasting his dignity with Logan's juvenile behavior. Support groups for military personnel used the incident to highlight the challenges soldiers face from disrespectful civilians. Logan's business partners and sponsors began receiving pressure from consumers threatening boycotts if they continued their associations with the controversial YouTuber. Several companies issued statements distancing themselves from his actions, while others remained silent as they evaluated the potential damage to their brands from continued partnerships. The incident transcended typical influencer drama when government officials began commenting on the situation. British members of Parliament discussed the incident in interviews, with some calling for stricter regulations on content creators filming in sensitive locations. The story had evolved from entertainment news into a genuine political talking point. International diplomatic tensions emerged as American embassy officials found themselves fielding questions about one of their citizens' behavior toward British military personnel. While the incident wasn't serious enough to impact official government relations, it created an awkward situation that required delicate handling from both sides. Logan's attempt to control the narrative through his own social media posts was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of criticism and opposing viewpoints. His usual strategy of deflecting controversy with humor and confidence wasn't working as effectively when faced with such widespread condemnation from international audiences. The viral explosion continued to grow as reaction videos, news segments, and commentary pieces multiplied across every platform imaginable. What had started as a simple prank designed to generate views had transformed into a global conversation about respect, cultural sensitivity, and the responsibility that comes with massive social media influence. Media analysts noted that the incident represented a new level of international backlash for Logan Paul, whose previous controversies had been largely contained within American cultural contexts. The involvement of British military tradition and national pride had elevated the stakes far beyond typical YouTube drama into genuine cross-cultural conflict. In the weeks following the Royal Guard incident, Logan Paul faced consequences that extended far beyond his usual controversy cycle. British authorities decided to pursue formal charges for harassment and disruption of military duties, resulting in a court appearance that drew massive media attention. The legal proceedings forced Logan to return to London under very different circumstances, facing potential fines and a criminal record. The court case became a media circus, with protesters gathering outside demanding respect for military personnel, while Logan's supporters claimed the charges were excessive for what they considered harmless entertainment. The judge's stern lecture about cultural sensitivity and personal responsibility was broadcast worldwide, serving as a public humiliation that no amount of social media spin could overcome. Logan's business empire suffered significant damage as several major sponsors terminated their contracts, unwilling to associate their brands with someone who had become a symbol of American disrespect abroad. His merchandise sales dropped in international markets, particularly in the United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries, where the incident had struck the deepest nerve. The Royal Guard who endured the prank, James Mitchell, found his life changed overnight as he became a symbol of military professionalism and dignity. He received thousands of messages of support from around the world and was eventually promoted within his regiment, partly due to the exemplary way he handled an unprecedented situation during his service. British tourism officials used the incident as a teaching moment, creating new guidelines for visitor behavior at royal sites and implementing stricter enforcement of existing rules. Logan's actions had inadvertently led to policy changes that would affect millions of future tourists, creating a lasting institutional impact from his moment of poor judgment. The incident sparked broader conversations about influencer accountability and the global reach of social media content. Universities began using Logan's case study in media ethics courses, examining how pursuit of viral content can cross cultural boundaries and create international incidents that extend far beyond entertainment. Logan himself went through a very public process of reflection and attempted redemption. Though many questioned the sincerity of his apologies, given his history of controversial behavior. His content began to shift toward more positive messaging, though critics argued this was motivated more by business necessity than genuine personal growth. The relationship between American content creators and international audiences changed. As a result of the incident, with many countries implementing new restrictions on filming at culturally sensitive sites, Logan's prank had unintentionally created diplomatic discussions about digital citizenship and cross-cultural respect in the social media age. Years later, the incident continued to follow Logan Paul wherever he went, mentioned in every major interview and business profile as a defining moment that demonstrated the real-world consequences of online actions. The phrase "pulling a Logan Paul" entered internet slang as shorthand for creating content that crosses serious cultural or ethical boundaries. The Royal Guard tradition itself gained renewed respect and attention as people worldwide learned more about the history and significance of these ceremonial positions. James Mitchell's story became part of military training programs as an example of maintaining professionalism under extraordinary circumstances. British-American cultural relations in the digital space evolved as both sides learned from the incident, with content creators becoming more aware of international sensitivities and British institutions developing better strategies for handling disruptive social media attention. The prank had accidentally created a case study in modern diplomatic and cultural challenges. The long-term impact extended to Logan's family and personal relationships, as the international scope of the backlash affected everyone in his orbit. His journey from confident prankster to someone facing genuine legal and social consequences became a cautionary tale about the power and responsibility that comes with massive social media influence. Ultimately, the Royal Guard prank represented a turning point not just for Logan Paul personally, but for the entire influencer industry's understanding of how quickly local content can become global controversy. The incident served as a permanent reminder that in the age of social media, actions have consequences that can span continents and cultures, lasting far longer than any viral video trend.